Is it true that the churches of Christ teach that all you have to do is be baptized and you're okay? Welcome to this, your daily 180 Bible study. This week, we're asking the question, is baptism important? Now, there are those who seem to think that the churches of Christ teach the idea that all you have to do is be baptized. Listen, I can't answer for every group out there that has the name above their door that says Church of Christ, but I can tell you about the Church of Christ you read about in the New Testament, the Church of the living God, the Church of God that is revealed within the pages of the Bible. And the reality is that baptism is absolutely essential, but it's not baptism only. And if the idea is that it is only doctrine, that all you have to do is be baptized, then it's not important because it's a false doctrine. You know, I mentioned to you earlier in the week that when we add the word only, it becomes very dangerous. And we see the idea of faith only is ludicrous. It is a false doctrine. We don't find that phrase anywhere except in James chapter 2 and verse number 24 where it says that we're not justified by faith only. Well, you know, the interesting thing about it is when you come to 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse number 21, here we find out that baptism and salvation are intimately connected. He looks back at the flood and he says, you know what, the flood is a picture of something to come, which is baptism. The flood was a type, baptism is the antitype. And notice what he says in verse number 21. There is also an antitype or a like figure which now saves us, baptism. Baptism saves us. And then he goes on to say, don't get confused. He says, not the removal of the filth of the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience toward God through the resurrection of Jesus Christ. You really want to have a clear conscience and realize, as Hebrews chapter 8 and verse number 12 says, that He'll remember your sins no more, then you need to be obedient to the commands of God. And you understand then that in baptism, sins are washed away. Why? Well, that's what God chose. Acts chapter 22 and verse number 16. Acts chapter 2 verse number 38. That's where sins are remitted. Someone says that doesn't make sense to me. Well, let me ask you this question. Are you willing to study the Scriptures and trust God and obey God? That's the real question, friends. And if we realize then that we can trust God and God says that He removes sins in baptism, then we need to be obedient to Him. Join us again next week for your Daily 180.